Hey everybody, it is time for quarantine lesson number 2. Before we get started, I need to apologize for Google Classroom. It's really making me mad. It's not easy to use from a teacher point of view. Some teachers have tried to help me, and that's great, but it made me so mad. I just quit everything Wednesday. I didn't do anything Thursday, and now it's Friday before I get around to doing stuff. So if you're on Google Classroom, you may have noticed a whole bunch of tests popping up, and that's me trying to figure out how to do the quizzy thing. I'm trying to figure out the quiz thing because the default is to not grade the quiz. Who the heck is going to give a quiz and not grade it? Google, I need you to do better than this. So I now have to go back and tell it I actually want it to count for points. So don't worry. If you did the first 2 quizzes, and in fact I deleted the other assignments because screw that, okay? But if you did the first 2 other quizzes, great. It's just showing me you completed, which is fine for now. So yay, you got a completion grade. I hope I have fixed it for these 2 quizzes. So if I have fixed it for these 2 quizzes, great. It should only let you submit 1 time. So all of you who were freaking out and you didn't know if it worked or not, it should be working now, and it should only let you do it 1 time. And it should be grading them. So we'll find out. Again, learning process for all of us involved. So hopefully it works. I have 2 quizzes that go along with this lesson. That might be my normal. I think I'm just going to give a little 10-question quiz at the end, and we'll call that done every time we do stuff. Okay? I think that's going to be easiest for everybody. If it's not the easiest, let me know and we'll go from there. All right? But I hope I have it fixed. I hope it's easier, and let me know how it looks. I even joined as a student in my own classroom to try to take the quiz, to try to fix it. I just hated everything and quit yesterday, which is okay. You can also hate everything and quit for a day, and if you need to take a break, please do so. Okay, we're moving on to quarantine lesson number 2. Again, a whole lot of review of 7th grade, tiny bit of 8th grade tacked on onto the end. If you have your notebook, you're following along on page 65. Your title is Energy and Competition. Your essential question is, how do organisms interact in ecosystems? So remember this food web that we did last time. There is another way we can arrange all the organisms in an ecosystem, and that's called an energy pyramid. So, just imagine that mountain lion and owl are squished in there. I didn't want to squish them, so they're there. All right, and I can even split up this energy pyramid. Again, shouldn't be new. Should have done this in 7th grade. I can split it up into different levels. And yes, I did think ahead, and I made the food web look that way so I could split it into levels just like this. All right, so your energy pyramid has different levels. They're called trophic levels. So the base of the pyramid is called trophic level 1. That's where all your stuff like producers would go. And then we have trophic level 2, which is where all your herbivores and all the things that eat the producers would go. We have trophic level 3, which has all your carnivores, and trophic level 4, which has all your top predators. Notice that the energy pyramid gets smaller as it goes up. Yes, that's real. Yes, that happens. So last lesson I asked you, what are there more of in an ecosystem? Your answer is producers, because everything eats a producer. There cannot be carnivores without there being herbivores, without there being producers. And there has to be plenty of producers for those herbivores to eat, for there to be enough herbivores for those carnivores to eat. As we move up the energy pyramid, there are fewer organisms and fewer of them. So yes, there may be a couple mountain lions in 100 square miles. But think of how many grass, trees, and shrubs there are in 100 square miles. Whole bunch more than mountain lions, right? So I only have 1 or 2 mountain lions in this whole area, whereas I have hundreds of thousands of different blades of grass and hundreds of thousands of trees and hundreds of thousands of shrubs, right? As we go down the pyramid, as we start at the bottom of the pyramid, there are more types, and as we go up, there are fewer and fewer types. Now, those top predators up there, they're called top predators, but that doesn't mean that they won't get eaten for some reason. All predators are basically what we would call opportunistic hunters. That means if they come across something small enough, weak enough, easy enough to kill and eat, yes, they will. So on our original food web, mountain lions and hawks are in the top predator section. No, mountain lions and hawks are not predators of each other. That doesn't mean if a little baby mountain lion cub wanders off into the forest alone, is a hawk going to be like, oh, it's another predator, I'm not going to eat it. No, it's not. It's going to eat it, okay? Because it found a little baby mountain lion all by itself. But that doesn't mean they're natural predators of each other. It just means it found something small enough, weak enough, easy enough to eat, so it will. That's called, I'm going to repeat it, opportunistic hunting. So I've been using some words, and we need to talk about them real fast. Again, review of 7th grade. I've been using the word trophic level. So a trophic level very simply means an organism's place in the food chain. What level is it on the energy pyramid? I'm going to throw you all the way back to 6th grade and remind you of the word autotroph and heterotroph. Notice the root word there, troph. Okay, and if you remember from 6th grade, you don't. But if you remember from 6th grade, autotroph, auto means self, troph means food, right? So it is making its own food, whereas hetero means different, so it's getting its energy from a different place. That word troph has to do with energy, nutrients, and a spot in the food chain. There are a couple special consumers, primary consumer and secondary consumer. Your primary consumer, let's break it down. Primary means first, right? Consumer means something that eats. We learned that last time. So it is basically herbivores. They are the first ones who are eating something. Not producers, because are producers eating? Nope, they're plants. They are making their own food. Now I'm bringing this up because it gets a little confusing. That means they are in the second level of the energy pyramid. So the first eater is in level 2. Likewise, your secondary consumer is the second eater, which means they eat the first ones. So those would be all your carnivores. Again, second eater is in the 3rd level. So don't let the trophic level confuse you because it doesn't match the level of consumer. All your consumer levels are going to be shifted one back because that first trophic level is taken up by producers who are not consumers at all. And yes, there is usually a tertiary, sometimes a quaternary consumer as well. Tertiary meaning 3rd, quaternary meaning 4th. They're not that common because remember our energy pyramid, as we go further up in trophic levels, we run out of energy. So there's literally not enough energy in the ecosystem to support more predators up there. All right, so now we're moving on to some more 8th grade stuff, which you may have talked about in 7th grade. I don't know what happened there. Habitat is literally where an organism lives. And that where can be very different definitions of the word where. We could talk about what country it lives in. We could talk about what biome, like rainforest, desert, whatever. We could talk about what specific, like it lives in the coral reef. We could have a bunch of different descriptions of where. There's also a word that we use called microhabitat, and that would be something like your backyard. So because you alter the landscape of your backyard, like literally you cut the grass, you plant trees, you do whatever you're doing in the backyard, right? So in that small little space, or that space between this house and that house, there are only certain organisms that can live there. And so we call that a microhabitat because it is very specific, very small, and it only allows certain organisms to live there. Do we have top predators? Not a whole lot. And if you do have a top predator, it's probably a cat. Another word we use is called niche. And a niche is referring to the role of an organism in an ecosystem or where it fits in the food chain. So is it a carnivore, an herbivore? Is it a predator? Is it a prey? What other organisms are trying to get the same stuff it's getting? Which leads us to our last vocabulary word, which is competition. Competition is the struggle for resources. Any resources any organism needs to live. Which leads us to a couple of thinking questions that if we had our notebook, I would have you write in your left side page, but you don't have your left side page. So anyway, just think about them. What types of things will organisms compete for? And why is having a unique niche important? Have you thought about it long enough? What about now? Okay, let's talk about what types of things organisms are going to compete for. Anything. They will compete for territory. They will compete for mating rights. They will compete for food, for shelter. If it is a plant, then they will compete for sunlight or soil or access to water. So competition happens between two like organisms that want the same resource. For example, we had both the hawk and the owl in that food web from last time. Hawks and owls are about the same size. Hawks and owls are both birds of prey. Hawks and owls are going to find the same sort of animals to be yummy food. So they are competing for the same type of prey. But they have a unique niche. Hawks hunt at daytime, owls hunt at nighttime. Because they are coming out in different times of the day, they are not necessarily in direct competition with each other. That helps keep the ecosystem more stable. If they were in direct competition, one of them would end up being the better hunter, the other one would die and go extinct. Which leads us to our ending assignments. If you go to Google Classroom, there are 2 quizzes, one for energy pyramids and one for competition. You will need to see this diagram when you do your energy pyramid quiz. I tried to put the picture on the quiz so that you could see it, but I don't know if it worked because Google Classroom and I are not friends right now. So hopefully it's there. If not, come back to this video, check it out again, or if you need to draw a little picture so that you have it with you when you take the quiz, that's going to be great. On the competition quiz, there's 5 questions about competition, and you have to tell me whether they're competing for a biotic resource or an abiotic resource. And then there's 5 questions where you have to fill in the vocabulary word that matches the definition. Okay, everybody, so that's the end of Lesson 2, Energy and Competition. Go to Google Classroom, finish the couple of quizzes, hopefully it all works and everything's great. I hope you're doing okay, because, I had a terrible day yesterday, and I hope your days aren't that terrible. But if they are, that's okay. Take a break. Try it again. Hope you're all staying safe. See you for Lesson 3.